All right, Virgo, I am ready for you. I have filmed this video twice. I had a crazy storm in the background one day. The next day, I don't even remember what was going on. But, anyways, I don't know how long this video is going to be, but I am finally ready for it. I lost my draft. I had to rewrite everything. It's been absolutely chaotic for this video. So, I am ready to get this done and out there. So, I'm Heather with Underwater Panther, and the work I do on this channel lives at the intersection of astro-psychology, moral cognition, shadow integration, polarity mechanics, and power dynamics across psyche and culture. I'm here to map how belief forms, where morality actually lives inside the mind and body, and why certain patterns repeat in relationships, families, institutions, even when the language changes. So you're probably going to see my breath. It is like 23 degrees right now. I might actually bring my heater a little closer. Yeah, it's freezing out here. I'm in my industrial shed office per normal. So you are going to definitely be seeing my breath. Anyways, I use astrology, cognitive functions, polarity theory, and moral load mapping as diagnostic frameworks. What I study here is conscience architecture, how power moves, how responsibility distributes, how containment fails, how relationships destabilize, and how nervous systems carry more than they should. Most people talk about communication problems. I talk about containment problems. So I am in my moral cognition series, working through multiple different axes here. I did a series on the most masculine to the most feminine with the 12 archetypes, and now we are in my moral load bearing series, breaking down each archetype according to inner and outer masculine and feminine. So this is very, very deep. This is very dense information. So most people debate masculinity and femininity emotionally. I map them structurally. Most people think responsibility and dominance are the same thing. They are not. On this channel, I separate force direction, masculine and feminine polarity, weight absorption, moral load bearing, nervous system containment, cognitive sequencing, and that is under pressure in this series, planetary imprint, and relational consequence. Because when you confuse those axes, relationships collapse, as well as your own integration individually. So, I didn't start out trying to build a new psychological system, I started inside existing ones. So I started with astrology, oh geez, almost 10 years ago. And I studied MBTI. I studied C.S. Joseph's cognitive framework. I've studied multiple other people. Attachment theory, trauma, and polarity. So I've been working on all of these researching topics for a decade. So all of that helped, but none of it answered the question that kept haunting me. Why do certain people always end up holding everything together? Not emotionally, not intellectually, structurally. Why do some people absorb consequence? Why do some absorb contamination? Why do some absorb attachment? And why do some absorb operational collapse? This is where my work begins. So C.S. Joseph explains cognition, astrology explains archetypes, trauma theory explains dysregulation, but none of those explain containment. So I built an additional layer, not replacing cognition, mapping what happens when cognition meets reality. That's what this series is. And Virgo is where this becomes impossible to ignore because Virgo doesn't carry existential weight like Scorpio. Virgo doesn't carry consequence like Capricorn. Virgo doesn't carry attachment like Cancer. Virgo carries maintenance. So I've already done multiple hours on Capricorn or the ISTJ in my system. They are number one masculine and number one load bearing. Scorpio is 5 or 6, I think 6 masculine, but they're number 2 in my moral weight ranking. And then number 3 is Cancer, or the ENFJ, which I've done videos on already. And now we are in Virgo, which is in the same tier of moral load bearing. So Virgo carries maintenance. Virgo carries error, correction. They carry the invisible labor that keeps life functioning, and that is moral load. So this series is Containment, Polarity, and Moral Load. That is the backbone of this work. So if you've ever wondered why some people burn out silently, why others explode relationally, why love turns into war, why strong people disappear emotionally, why accountability feels uneven, and why emotional labor debates go nowhere, it's because containment is missing. And someone always ends up carrying what everyone else avoids. That is what we are mapping here. Welcome to the architecture. All right, so I'm going to do a little bit of comparison between Capricorn, Scorpio, Cancer, and Virgo. I'm not sure if I'm going to bring up those key cards yet. I'm going to take a quick coffee drink. All right, so Capricorn carries consequence, Scorpio carries contamination, and Cancer carries connection. And underneath every relationship collapse, every burnout spiral, every polarity war, every gender debate, every emotional labor argument, there's one missing architecture: containment of emotion, of power, of responsibility, and of truth. How nervous systems carry pressure, how responsibility distributes when reality destabilizes, how polarity collapses inside individuals and relationships, and why certain archetypes always end up holding what everyone else avoids. So that is what this series is answering. So I am going to go ahead and bring up Virgo's key card. I'm going to keep it there because I am going to compare. You know what? Actually, I'm just going to do it now. I'm going to bring them all up. So I've already done videos on Capricorn and Scorpio. They are in their own tier they're in their own tier, and then Cancer and Virgo are in their own tier. So let me go ahead actually and bring up the master key card. And I'm going to have to move it because I have a lot going on in this screen. Okay. So hopefully you can read that. It's big enough. All right. So let me just kind of go over what is going on. Okay. So I will be breaking down. How big is that? So I will be breaking down Virgo's inner and outer, masculine and feminine. So that's what we are going to be getting into, the meat of the video. So I am running 2 axes, masculine and feminine, tells you how energy moves. Moral load bearing tells us where consequence lands. They intersect, but they are not identical. This is the missing distinction almost all polarity content fails to make. Okay, so masculinity is outward force, direction setting, boundary projection, initiates structure, and absorbs consequence. Feminine is inward processing, attunement, integration, response, integrates impact, and restores connection. So that is about vector. Which way does energy move under pressure? This is kind of like a recap of what's going on. So the most masculine to the most feminine sequence. So I've already done a series on this, and I already have an ebook. Let me bring that up real quick, actually. Oh, great. My screen is going to start screwing up. All right, never mind. I'm not going to bring up the ebook because it's screwing everything up. All right, I've got too much up here. Okay, so the most masculine to the most feminine sequence. We have Capricorn, number 1, Aries and Aquarius. They are in their own tier. Leo, Sagittarius, Virgo, Scorpio, Gemini in their own tier, Taurus, Libra, Cancer, and Pisces. So in my book that I've already uploaded, it explains so much. I don't remember how many pages it is, but it tells why they're why they're ranked high masculine to lower in the feminine range. So I don't really feel like going through all this now because it is a lot. There are different tiers. It explains a lot. So now we are in our moral load ranking series. So we have Capricorn, Scorpio, tier 1, Cancer, Virgo, tier 2, Taurus, Pisces, tier 3, and the rest are in tier 4. So, moral load bearing where consequence is internally held. This ranking answers something entirely different compared to masculine and feminine. When something goes wrong, who feels it inside first? So, under pressure. This is about internalized responsibility, conscience pressure, consequence absorption, guilt versus shame versus avoidance, and who carries failure psychologically. This is the axis of moral gravity, and this is the one modern culture confuses with masculinity. They are not the same. So, what is moral load? It is what remains inside a human system after betrayal, abandonment, failure, corruption, relational collapse, and unmet responsibility. It is the afterweight. It is what doesn't evaporate. Some nervous systems discharge that pressure outward. Some systems retain it internally, some convert it into action, and some convert it into memory. So this framework identifies which archetypes retain weight and which release it. That's the entire architecture. So we have two fundamental nervous system types. So we are inner and outer, masculine and feminine containment. We are talking about your nervous system. Okay, so there are two fundamental nervous system types. Number one, retention systems, which are the top load bearers. So Virgo is in this nervous system type. They keep weight, they carry after the moment ends, they replay, they store, they metabolize responsibility internally or relationally. Which relationally, internally would be Capricorn and Scorpio, relationally is Cancer and Virgo, but in very different ways. So they feel implicated even when no one assigns blame. These systems become the stabilizers, the conscience carriers, the emotional infrastructure, the accountability anchors. Man, it's super cold. I'm sorry that you can see my my breath. It's like below 20 degrees. All right, so they don't opt in, they are the container. So the second kind of nervous systems are the lower tiers, the motion systems. They move energy, they discharge, they reframe, and they pivot. They act, express, narrate, philosophize, or redirect moral load. They experience stress and then release it. They do not retain moral residue long term. So I'll get more into that when we get there. All right, so why moral load compresses into a few tiers. Masculine and feminine spreads across many tiers because force can move in many ways. Physically, emotionally, cognitively, strategically, and socially. But moral load doesn't care how energy moves. It only cares, does weight stay here? Yes or no? So the first tier, we had Capricorn and Scorpio. These systems, nervous systems, store moral pressure inside their nervous system. They carry consequence, Capricorn, and contamination, exposure, and truth with Scorpio. They do not discharge, they accumulate. They fracture silently or explosively. They are existential load bearers. They suffer even when nobody else, when no one sees. All right, so I'm not going to get into that too deeply because I already have. So now we are in tier 2 with Cancer and Virgo. This is the relational and operational retainers. These nervous systems carry weight through people and patterns. They store emotional burden, Cancer, and integrity, memory, Virgo. They don't hold reality itself, they hold human impact. So Capricorn and Scorpio hold reality internally, and then eventually Scorpio explodes. And then, so human impact would be emotionally with Cancer and practically with Virgo. So Virgo and Cancer become emotional infrastructure, relational glue, and accountability ledgers. They exhaust through service. All right, so they hold, emotional aftermath, relational stability, and integrity continuity. All right, so Virgo is the integrity accountant. The moral weight location is error, negligence, correction. Virgo carries responsibility through vigilance. They feel moral pressure around fixing what's broken, preventing harm through precision, and correcting mistakes before consequences spread. Now, I'm actually going to bring up the book I'm currently working on and elaborate just a little bit more on that before I move on. My computer is starting to glitch out. I gotta scroll way back up. Here we go. All right, so Virgo, I want to expand out just a little bit more. So Virgo says, I should have caught that. Virgo carries responsibility through vigilance. So they're worried about error, negligence, and correction. They feel moral pressure around fixing what's broken, preventing harm through precision, and correcting mistakes before consequences spread. Burnout risk, chronic anxiety, and they are misread as nitpicky and critical. Virgo carries precision. They hold pattern tracking, effort accounting, operational ethics, and responsibility memory. Virgo doesn't metabolize corruption like Scorpio. Virgo doesn't absorb attachment like Cancer. Virgo records. They keep the ledger. They notice who showed up, who didn't, what was promised, what was delivered, where integrity slipped, and where effort became uneven. Virgo does not dramatize betrayal. They document it internally. They become moral auditors. They leave quietly because the file is complete. They don't fight, they close the case. This is moral load number 4. They carry accuracy. So Cancer holds people, Virgo holds patterns. Different channels, same exhaustion. All right, so I'm not going to go into the other tiers right now. It's a lot of information. So for now, I'm going to go back to the master key with the ranking order. Right here, there we are. Moral load ranking order. Okay. All right, so Virgo, let me make sure I'm on the right page here. Okay, so Virgo's relationship to shame, procedural shame, not emotional shame. So one of the most misunderstood parts of Virgo psychology is that Virgo or the ESFJ does not primarily experience shame as an emotional event. Virgo experiences shame as error detection. So they are an earth sign. They're very much so about thinking logically and practically. Virgo does not wake up thinking I'm bad. Virgo wakes up thinking something failed. Where was my oversight? Their internal dialogue is rarely moral in tone. It's mechanical. So I will break that down. That has a lot to do with Mercury, ruling Mercury, Earth. Yeah, it has a lot to do with Mercury and Earth. All right. So their internal dialogue is rarely moral in tone. It's mechanical. They're saying, what did I miss? What should I have caught? Where did the process break? Why didn't I intervene sooner? This is fundamentally different from Capricorn, Scorpio, and Cancer. Capricorn internalizes responsibility. I should have held this together. Scorpio internalizes contamination. Something corrupt entered the field and I didn't neutralize it. Cancer internalizes guilt. I should have protected. Virgo internalizes error. Not wrongdoing, not betrayal, not abandonment, failure of precision, failure of maintenance, failure of early detection. This creates a quiet, relentless internal loop where Virgo assumes that every relational breakdown Every system failure, every emotional collapse might trace back to something they failed to notice, correct, or stabilize in time. This is why Virgo burnout is not just exhaustion from giving, it is self correction fatigue. They're constantly running internal diagnostics. What pattern did I misread? What standard should I have enforced sooner? Where did I allow degradation? So their mind has a ton of anxiety. You've got Mercury there. Their mind is always on. And because Virgo believes improvement is always possible, they don't emotionally discharge this shame. They refine, they adjust, they compensate, they silently upgrade themselves instead of confronting the imbalance externally. Over time, this becomes devastating because Virgo is not resting, they are debugging their own humanity. Virgo's shadow control through precision. I don't know how I'm going to stop me. There's nothing I can do about my dragon breath. Sorry. It's driving me insane. So before Virgo burns out, Virgo tightens, not emotionally, operationally. When Virgo senses imbalance early, they don't usually confront it directly. Instead, they move into what looks like helpfulness, but is actually containment distortion. They become hyper specific. They start micromanaging. They increase standards. They overcorrect details and they optimize processes instead of naming hurt. This is not dominance. This is protection through precision. Virgo doesn't say this feels unequal. Virgo says, let me just fix it. They don't demand accountability, they increase effort. They don't ask for emotional repair, they reorganize logistics. They don't express disappointment, they improve systems. This is Virgo trying to stabilize relational entropy without confrontation. So I do want to mention very, very quickly, which I wish I would have already. I don't know if I did or not. But I just kind of want you to get a sense. So Virgo is number 6 masculine. Externally, I will get into this, but I just want to mention it now. So Virgo is felt as feminine up front and then internally masculine. Just an FYI. All right, so let me get back to there we go. And they're number 4 moral weight bearer. All right, so they believe deeply that if they refine enough, adjust enough, maintain enough, the system will self-correct. But this is containment collapse. Because Virgo is absorbing imbalance internally instead of forcing it into the relational field where it belongs. Eventually, this turns into resentment, but not explosive resentment. It's called calcified resentment. Virgo and the resentment accumulation curve. Every archetype collapses differently. Scorpio burns, Capricorn seals, Cancer dissolves, Virgo calcifies. Virgo resentment doesn't come in waves. It hardens in layers. They don't erupt, they crystallize. They stay outwardly calm while internally closing file after file after file. Virgo keeps receipts, but not theatrically. They keep them structurally. Each unreciprocated effort, each ignored standard, and each one sided repair, each pattern repeated until one day Virgo doesn't argue, they disengage. And that terrifying part for partners is this: Virgo often leaves emotionally long before they leave physically. But by the time someone realizes something is wrong, Virgo has already completed the audit. They look peaceful, they sound neutral, they're already done. That psychological the gap between inner completion and outer departure is Virgo's unique relational danger. They don't announce thresholds, they finalize them. Virgo's gift when integrated. I'm on page 8 of 148, so I'm probably going to have to break this up into multiple videos. So Virgo's gift when integrated. Each archetype has a collapse pattern, but every archetype also has a healed expression. Healthy Virgo does not abandon precision. They refine where the precision lands. Integrated Virgo moves from silent self-correction to shared maintenance. They stop absorbing operational failure alone. They allow responsibility to distribute. They hold standards without erasing themselves. They correct without resentment. They serve without martyrdom. But the single most important shift for Virgo integration is this: Virgo learns to express dissatisfaction early, not through criticism, not through micromanagement, but through direct relational truth. Saying, "This doesn't feel balanced. I'm carrying more than my share. I need effort to meet me here." That one change prevents almost every Virgo burnout scenario, because Virgo doesn't need less responsibility. Virgo needs responsibility to be visible and shared. So Virgo versus Capricorn, the containment distinction. All right, so Capricorn says, "I will hold this so it doesn't collapse." Virgo says, "I will fix this so it doesn't degrade." Capricorn builds structures, Virgo maintains them. Capricorn absorbs weight, Virgo absorbs error. Capricorn carries consequence, Virgo carries correction. This is why Capricorn becomes the spine and Virgo becomes the technician. Capricorn prevents breakdown. Virgo prevents decay. They are both load bearers, but in completely different dimensions. Capricorn holds reality together, and Virgo keeps it from quietly falling apart. All right, so Virgo's relationship to time. All right, so the entropy carrier. Capricorn carries timeline consequence. Virgo carries decay over time. This distinction is subtle but very profound. Capricorn fears collapse. Capricorn watches the clock. Capricorn braces for impact. They think in deadlines, milestones, long-term legacy. If something will fail, Capricorn wants to prevent the fall. Virgo, however, does not fear collapse the same way. Virgo fears erosion. Virgo is hyper attuned to slow degradation, the kind that no one else notices until it becomes visible damage. Virgo feels small errors accumulating, tiny inefficiencies compounding, habits slipping quietly, emotional tone cooling subtly, hygiene declining gradually, boundaries softening unnoticed, and systems drifting off axis. Virgo doesn't respond to crisis. Virgo responds to trajectory drift. Their nervous system is scanning for entropy, the natural tendency of systems to decay if not maintained. This is Mercury, micro adjustment filtered through Earth, real world consequence, and stored through introverted sensing, or SI, pattern memory. Virgo remembers how small things become big things. So their internal vigilance sounds like this: if I don't intervene now, this will become worse later. They don't panic over explosions. Oh, I just lost my spot. They don't panic over explosions. They panic over hairline fractures. Virgo doesn't carry crisis. Virgo carries entropy. They feel time leaking through systems. They sense wear and tear in advance. They experience maintenance as moral obligation. And because they feel degradation early, they often intervene before anyone else even sees a problem. That's not anxiety, that's anticipatory containment. Capricorn watches deadlines, Cancer watches attachment timelines, and Virgo watches maintenance time. This is a distinct nervous system skill, and it is exhausting. Virgo's hypersensitivity to unfinished loops. All right, so they have a closure compulsion. Virgo cannot tolerate unresolved systems, not emotionally unresolved, operationally unresolved. Unanswered emails, unclear expectations, half-finished projects, ambiguous responsibilities, unspoken misunderstandings, and tasks that will get done later. Their nervous system stays activated until loops close. This isn't perfectionism in the shallow sense. It's structural discomfort. SI records incomplete cycles. Mercury keeps scanning them. Neptune overlays meaning onto unfinished business. Jupiter whispers that completion equals growth. So Virgo follows up, circles back, clarifies details, rechecks arrangements, reminds others, and finalizes what people abandon. And when they don't, it sits in their body. Virgo doesn't need closure emotionally, they need closure operationally. Unfinished loops live in their nervous system like low-grade static. It's not dramatic, it's cumulative. This is a massive contributor to Virgo fatigue. They are often carrying 5 unfinished systems internally while appearing calm externally. This is not anxiety, it's closure compulsion. Virgo experiences incompletion as instability. And when they are the only one who notices, they become the only one who closes it. This is how maintenance becomes martyrdom. All right, so Virgo specific trauma pattern. All right, so conditional belonging. Cancer learns I belong if I care. Virgo learns I belong if I'm useful. This is a fundamentally different imprint. Virgo's early nervous system often registers that stability increases when they help. When they organize, smooth, fix, assist, or anticipate needs, intention drops. Adults relax, systems function, and praise appears. So usefulness becomes their identity. This creates performance-based worth, service identity, competence armor, hyper-independence, fear of being a burden, and inability to rest without guilt. This is not simply people-pleasing. It's existential usefulness imprint. Neptune adds sacred meaning to contribution. Jupiter expands duty into moral responsibility. And SI stores evidence that usefulness prevents chaos. So Virgo grows up believing, if I stop being useful, I lose value. This is the wound. Cancer fears abandonment. Virgo fears irrelevance. Cancer fears emotional exile. Virgo fears redundancy. They don't collapse when someone leaves. They collapse when they feel unnecessary. That's their core vulnerability, and it is far less visible. Virgo versus Cancer. Mother wound versus competence wound. Cancer wound, I wasn't emotionally held. Virgo wound, I wasn't allowed to just exist. Cancer longs for safety. Virgo longs for permission to stop fixing. Cancer wants to be cared for. Virgo wants to not be needed. Cancer overcarries emotion because they fear losing connection. Virgo overcarries responsibility because they fear losing worth. Cancer dissolves into attachment. Virgo hardens into competence. Cancer says, please don't leave me. Virgo says, I'll handle it. One begs to be held. One refuses to be a burden. That contrast is devastating and beautiful. Cancer collapses from too much feeling. Virgo collapses from too much functioning. Both are outer feminine archetypes, but the material they carry is different. Cancer carries attachment. Virgo carries maintenance. All right, so I think I'm done with the comparison, hopefully. So I'm going to take the other archetypes down and work with, I'm going to move this over here for now. Where am I going to put this? I always listen to music. I apologize. Okay, I'm actually going to put this underneath, I think. Give me one moment. There we go. All right. Hopefully that's big enough for now. All right, so that's where I'm going to put it for now anyways. All right, so Virgo's masculine and feminine confusion. All right, so the paradox partners misread. So Virgo is relationally feminine. So they are number 6 feminine, I believe. I've already forgotten, but I'm pretty sure I showed you already. So they feel responsible for others. They hold external stability. They attune to relational impact. But structurally, they are masculine. Mercury analyzes, introverted sensing or SI tracks precedent, and Venus enforces quietly. So we do have Venus in fall. So this is the Astro, which I haven't even said yet. It's the Astro-Psychological key card I made many years ago. It's based on the archetype's ego. So astrologically, you have the ruling planet, exaltation, left field, and fall. Psychologically, you have the hero, parent, child, and inferior cognitive places, and the functions are extroverted feeling, introverted sensing, extroverted intuition, and introverted thinking. Planetary imprints, we have Mercury, Earth, Jupiter, Neptune, and Venus. So I will break all these down and how the dynamics work. So even if you don't have a Virgo sun sign, if you have a Virgo Mercury, moon placement, stellium, rising, you will resonate with this energy. FYI, it's very foundational. All right, so outwardly they're feminine, inwardly they are masculine. So partners experience warmth and correction, care and standards, help and judgment, soft tone, and hard expectations, which creates whiplash. Oh, I just lost my spot again. There's so many pages. I keep doing that. All right. So it creates whiplash. People misinterpret Virgo as controlling. They aren't trying to dominate, they're trying to optimize. Virgo is simultaneously holding you and refining you. That dual channel confuses attachment systems, nervous systems, polarity within other people. To insecure partners, it can feel like criticism. To immature partners, it feels like control. To avoidant partners, it feels like evaluation, but to a regulated partner, it feels like someone who actually sees what matters. Virgo's paradox is this: they care deeply, but they express care through precision. This is not coldness, this is structured love. So, Virgo's final spiritual lesson: worth without usefulness. Scorpio learns truth without destruction. Capricorn learns responsibility without isolation. Cancer learns care without control. Virgo learns worth without usefulness. This is their soul lesson. Virgo must learn what they do not have to fix, improve, correct, stabilize, and optimize, or maintain, or anticipate to be lovable. Neptune must detach meaning from effort. Jupiter must detach growth from overwork. SI must stop storing self-worth in performance metrics. Integration happens when Virgo realizes, I can rest and still belong. I can receive and still matter. I can exist without contributing. This is Neptune resolution. This is containment maturity. This is the spiritual arc. So Virgo doesn't break loudly. Virgo erodes quietly. They don't scream when overwhelmed. They tighten. They don't explode when exhausted. They harden. They leave when the hope engine shuts off. They don't rage. They finalize. And when Virgo finally stops maintaining, the system realizes too late what was holding it together. All right. So Virgo's moral tier clarification. Virgo does not carry existential weight like Capricorn or Scorpio. They do not hold reality itself. They hold continuity. They carry cumulative, excuse me, I'm having issues speaking tonight. Of course, I am having issues speaking with Virgo. Imagine that. They carry cumulative. Why can I not say that word? Cumulative load, small failures, repeated imbalances, and incremental decay. They manage the slow erosion that others don't notice until it becomes catastrophic. That's why Virgo belongs exactly in the tier 2 relational and integrity load bearer. They don't carry the world, they carry the wear and tear of being human inside it, which is human impact. All right, so that was a mouthful. What am I at? 40 minutes? That was a 40-minute introduction, just FYI. All right, so before we go any further, I am going to re-anchor the axes that I am using, the masculine and feminine, and the moral load a little deeper. All right, so masculine and feminine polarity is force direction. It answers questions like, so I'm going to go back to the ranking here. So this ranking here is the most masculine to the most feminine. So I did explain this in that series, the prior series, but I am just doing a recap. So masculine and feminine polarity is force direction. It answers questions like who initiates, who structures, who absorbs impact, who integrates experience. Masculine is outward force, feminine is inward processing. So as a whole archetype, that is my list for the most masculine to the most feminine. In this series, we are breaking it into inner masculine and feminine and outer masculine and feminine. So within the actual archetype itself, not as a whole. Masculine is outward force, feminine is inward processing. Masculine moves reality, feminine metabolizes reality. So this axis tells you how energy flows. Polarity is how energy moves under pressure. Masculine and feminine are not identities, they are directions of force. Masculine function initiates, structures, and forces and moves outward. Feminine function receives, integrates, stabilizes, and processes inward. That's it. Masculine is vector, feminine is container. Masculine moves reality, feminine metabolizes reality. Every human nervous system contains both. The question is not which one are you? The question is which one activates first when something goes wrong, because that sequence determines everything. This is where almost all polarity content collapses into nonsense. People rank archetypes by masculine or feminine without ever asking. Where does force originate? Where does consequence land? Who absorbs pressure and who discharges it? Those are two different axes. Okay. So that's why I separated this work into two distinct frameworks. The masculine and feminine, how energy moves as a whole archetype. And then this series, we're going internal. And moral load, where responsibility stays. All right, so now we're going to get into the 4 quadrants of containment for Virgo. So hopefully I can capture all of this in the key card screen here. I'm going to have to move that. All right, so I'm going to have to move some things around. I'm not sure. I wish I could like hang on a second. I'm just going to do this. This is fine. My space heater's driving me insane. I'm just going to cover it up. There we go. Perfect. All right, so here's the key card, just so when we're going through this video, you can remind yourself. Okay, I did capture it all great. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. So I'm going to keep this key card here, so you can use that as a reference as we're going through here. I'm trying not to cover my Panther head. All right, hopefully that hopefully I got everything captured right. Okay. Sometimes I cut things off. Sometimes, like, I can't really tell on this OBS screen until I watch the video. So it is what it is. All right, so we're good. I don't even want to see my face. It is what it is right now. All right, so do you want to see my face or do you want to see the heater? It's whatever at this point. Gracious sakes. All right, you know what? There. This is what we're doing. All right, anywho. So the 4 quadrants of containment. Every archetype expresses polarity through 4 internal quadrants. So I'm not only layering astrology and psychology, this is where I add to the body of work when it comes to understanding personality types. No one else is I mean, they do talk about, like, I'm going to have to do a whole video on this because I know it's going to come. Psychologically, the psychological people, they break it down differently, and it's based on cognitive function, on the internal, like extroverted feeling is an extroverted cognitive function, and it's considered, it just depends on the cognitive function. I don't want to get you too confused with the other systems, so I'm going to make that into a video itself. So I do this differently. I'm just going to go through the information first with this series, and then I'm going to have to do a whole huge video on how I've like evolved my own work. So anyways, sorry. I don't want to get you too confused. All right. So the 4 quadrants of containment. Every archetype expresses polarity through 4 internal quadrants: outer masculine, inner feminine, and outer feminine. So these are not abstract concepts, they are functional systems inside the psyche. Let's define them cleanly. Outer masculine. This is action in the world. And I already know y'all are going to be like, why the heck is SI introverted and Earth? Why is that masculine? This is under pressure. There's a cognitive sequence that happens according to polarity internally. Masculine and feminine under pressure, moral load. So there is a different cognitive sequence that happens under the 2 axes, unlike only using psychology. Just an FYI. All right. So, outer masculine is action in the world, execution, boundaries, consequence, enforcement, and structure. Outer masculine is where reality changes. Outer masculine is what people experience from you. It is visible, it moves things, it builds, confronts, exits, protects, and organizes. When outer masculine activates before inner containment, it becomes domination, punishment, withdrawal, control, and weaponized truth. Not because the person is bad, but because action outran integration. Inner masculine. This is sovereignty. Outer masculine. I got confused. Sorry. Geez. TI inferior and Venus are outer masculine. Sorry. I'm like this. I'm creating a whole new framework. I'm not basing this off of anyone else's research or information. This is my own. There's a lot of archetypes. I am working ahead. Do apologize. That's why I constantly am cross-referencing, because I myself, it's hard to memorize all of this information. That's why I have key cards everywhere. Okay, so inner masculine is SI parent and Earth. Outer masculine, TI inferior and Venus. Sorry for the confusion. All right, so the inner masculine. Okay, that is where your sovereignty is, your private values, your internal boundaries, self-reference. Inner masculine is the quiet spine of the archetype. It answers, what do I allow? What matters to me? Where do I stand? Inner masculine does not perform, it decides. If inner masculine is weak or bypassed, people outsource decisions to reactions. That's where chaos begins. Okay, now inner feminine. So that's extroverted, intuition, Jupiter, and Neptune. All right, so this is nervous system regulation, emotional memory, safety calibration, attachment imprint, somatic experience. Inner feminine is where experiences are felt and stored. It answers, am I safe right now? Is this present or past? Can I settle before acting? If inner feminine is overwhelmed, the system goes into threat. Then everything that follows is distorted. Outer feminine. Outer feminine. All right, so that is the extroverted feeling, hero, and Mercury. This is perception and awareness, pattern recognition, possibility scanning, environmental sensing, and emotional intelligence. Outer feminine is what notices. It doesn't act, it preserves. When outer feminine becomes fused with outer masculine, perception instantly becoming action. Intensity replaces containment. That's where Scorpio burns. When outer feminine collapses entirely, rigidity replaces adaptability. That's where Capricorn freezes, and that is where Virgo calcifies. So the core law we have for polarity work: Outer masculine must only activate after inner feminine is regulated and inner masculine is stable, always. This is the architecture of healthy polarity. If that order is violated, truth becomes weaponized, intimacy becomes interrogation, responsibility becomes resentment, and love becomes a battlefield. Every archetypal collapse follows this rule. All right, so why this matters? Because when containment is missing, in order to have healthy containment, you have to have your inner and outer masculine and feminine balanced within yourself. One person, and then if you're not contained within yourself, that's going to screw up relationships. Other people not contained can also screw you up. It's a lot. It's a lot of work to understand how to regulate and contain your own nervous system as well as being in a relationship. So, because when containment is missing, one person becomes a regulator, the other becomes the extractor. One carries consequence, the other moves through freely. And then we call it communication problems, attachment issues, and personality conflict. It isn't. It's structural polarity failure within oneself and the relationship itself. And someone always pays. That someone is almost always Capricorn, Scorpio, Cancer, or Virgo, the moral load carriers. Top 4 moral load carriers normally take on the most moral burden in relationships. All right, so I already went over. I'm not going to do any more. Okay, so I've already done enough of I wanted to do some more comparing, but I think I'm done. All right, so yeah, I don't want to compare archetypes anymore. All right, so the core law of Virgo edition. Outer masculine must only activate after inner containment is stable. Outer masculine is action, it's enforcement, it's correction, it's intervention. Inner containment is nervous system regulation plus moral clarity. Because when outer masculine activates too early before the inner world is settled, everything distorts. So Virgo's collapse is quieter. I don't think I want to go over that either. Okay, we'll go over Virgo's unique collapse pattern. I'm gonna skip some because I have like 150 pages here. Virgo's unique collapse pattern. Virgo's outer masculine does not arrive as domination. It arrives as precision. So, correction, adjustment, standards, micro intervention, process refinement, and silent fixing. Virgo doesn't confront loudly, Virgo calibrates. They reorganize environments, they refine expectations, they raise bars quietly, they tighten systems, they optimize people without announcing it. And at first, it looks helpful, but because it is helpful. But here's what's happening underneath. Virgo is externally managing what they are not internally expressing. Instead of saying, I'm tired, I feel taken for granted, I'm carrying too much, I need help, Virgo adjusts the system. They fix, they correct, they compensate, they increase precision instead of naming pain. This is Virgo's containment failure. Care turns into correction. Virgo begins in service. They notice what's off, they see inefficiencies, they track patterns, they offer help, they close gaps, and they stabilize operations. But when inner containment is missing, when dissatisfaction is swallowed instead of voiced, Virgo's outer masculine starts activating prematurely. And that's when help becomes expectation, standards become pressure, correction becomes criticism, and service becomes silent resentment. They harden slowly around unmet reciprocity. They stop explaining, they stop asking, they stop negotiating. They start documenting internally. And then one day they simply leave. So Virgo doesn't burn or brace. Virgo audits. Definitely remember that part. Why Virgo becomes critical under stress. This is containment distortion. When Virgo's inner feminine attachment memory and lived responsibility is overloaded and their inner masculine values and boundaries is not being honored, outer masculine steps in as operational enforcement. They increase standards, corrections, expectations, and precision because that's the only way they know how to restore balance without confrontation. So when inner containment is stable, Virgo serves with joy. They correct without resentment. They help without keeping score. They maintain without martyrdom. But when inner containment is bypassed, care becomes correction. Correction becomes criticism. Criticism becomes withdrawal. And love quietly turns into accounting. All right, so I already explained about the relational operation. I don't want to go over that again. I always outdo myself. I put in too much information. All right, so I want to get into the let's see. All right, so now I'm going to get into containment as integrity, not control. So I didn't organize this as much as I wanted to, but anyways, we're rolling with it. We're at an hour. All right, so Virgo containment as integrity, not control. The technician archetype after the relational bridge. So we're going to break down the 4 quadrants in depth. I'm just not all the way there yet. So far, we have established something most people never get to. That containment is not emotional labor, not control, and not repression. It is the structure that allows polarity, difference, and responsibility to exist without harm. And we establish the harder truth. When containment is absent, someone has to become it. And very often, the people who become containment are not chosen, they're forced into it by collapse. But here's the next layer. Containment doesn't fail the same way across archetypes. All right, so Virgo is the archetype most often accused of being critical, controlling, or picky. But what Virgo actually is a maintenance system. Virgo is what happens when a human being becomes the quality control department of a relationship, a family, a workplace, or an entire social environment because nobody else is catching the failures. So their moral weight. Virgo's tier and what they actually carry. So Virgo is the archetype that carries the integrity ledger. Virgo tracks who did what was promised, what was delivered, where effort became uneven, where accountability slipped, where it's fine turned into it's always me, and where systems keep failing and everyone pretends it's random. This is why Virgo becomes a load bearer, not because they want power, but because reality becomes sloppy. And Virgo is the only one that cannot unsee it. Virgo does not gain moral weight from being liked. Virgo gains moral weight from being the one who keeps things functional when people start emotionally improvising their way out of responsibility. This is the moral foundation we are building on. All right, so core thesis here. Virgo's containment need is shared responsibility and shared standards. Virgo does not feel safe in systems where everything is no big deal until it becomes their job. Expectations are vague, but consequences are real. Accountability becomes emotional instead of procedural. Communication replaces follow through. People want forgiveness but refuse pattern change. Virgo can handle mistakes. Virgo cannot handle repeated, avoidable mistakes that get spiritually reframed as human. Because Virgo is not tracking perfection, Virgo is tracking pattern integrity. The moment Virgo becomes controlling is the moment a system is asking them to maintain order without being allowed to name what's failing. That is structural exploitation. So why Virgo comes now, load bearer number 4, and why this order matters. We started with Capricorn. Let me get back into my, okay, there we go. I was trying to get ahead of myself. I apologize. Is that organized? Or like, can you see it all? Okay, there we go. Okay. So why Virgo comes now and why this order matters. We started with Capricorn because Capricorn reveals consequence. We moved into Scorpio because Scorpio reveals contamination. Now we're moving into Cancer. Then we moved into Cancer because Cancer reveals attachment burden. And then we land in Virgo because Virgo reveals something different, the invisible mechanics of collapse. Virgo is what shows you how relationships die by 1,000 paper cuts. Micro failures that accumulate until the system cannot hold. Virgo is the archetype that notices the leak while everyone else argues about intention. What Virgo is actually doing and gets misread as criticism. Virgo is not criticizing you for being imperfect. Virgo is trying to prevent collapse by correcting what keeps failing. Virgo becomes sharp after repeated inconsistency, repeated I forgot, repeated emotional excuses, repeated responsibility handoffs, and repeated pattern denial. And what people interpret as nitpicking is often Virgo doing something most people never do, naming the actual variable causing repeated breakdown. Virgo doesn't attack first, Virgo adjusts first. Virgo compensates and Virgo fixes. And then they track. And then one day, Virgo stops explaining. That's not cruelty, that's containment. When no external structure exists, Virgo creates internal structure. And that internal structure looks like standards, routines, systems, boundaries, and quiet withdrawal when nothing changes. Not because Virgo lacks love necessarily. The astrologers would totally argue that because we have Venus in fall. Not because Virgo lacks love, but because love without functional integrity becomes self-erasure. Control versus containment. Critical clarification. This distinction matters just as much as it did with Capricorn. Control is trying to dictate outcomes because nothing else is holding the system. Containment is building structure so outcomes don't require force. Virgo does not start controlling. Virgo starts containing. They build schedules, they create consistency, they follow through, they remember details, they do the small things that keep life from falling apart. Control emerges only after containment fails. When their effort becomes invisible, their maintenance becomes expected, their standards get mocked, their boundaries are treated like too much, and then they're still blamed when things break. That's when Virgo tightens, not to dominate, to stop the system from disintegrating. Virgo's emotional shutdown and why it looks cold, because we have TI inferior and Venus in fall. Anyways, Virgo's shutdown is often mistaken for lack of feeling. It isn't. It's correction fatigue. In environments where every issue becomes a feelings conversation, every pattern gets spiritually bypassed, every boundary becomes you're being harsh, and nothing actually changes, Virgo learns something brutal. Emotional processing becomes a substitute for accountability. So Virgo stops talking, not to punish, to survive. They become clinical because being emotionally engaged in a dysfunctional loop is how they get trapped as the maintenance system forever. What Virgo needs to relax. Virgo relaxes when roles are clear, follow through exists, effort is reciprocated, accountability is real, not emotional, people repair without being dragged, standards aren't mocked as controlling. When those conditions exist, Virgo becomes warm, funny, deeply generous, incredibly steady, surprisingly playful, and way less critical than people think. This is Virgo people rarely get to meet because most systems don't hold long enough for Virgo to stop monitoring for failure. The false accusation. Virgo is often accused of being controlling, picky, judgmental, and cold. But what people are really reacting to is this: Virgo refusing to emotionally subsidize dysfunction. Virgo refusing to pretend that vibes replace consistency. Virgo refusing to keep fixing what others keep breaking. This is moral adulthood. Virgo doesn't need to soften. Virgo needs shared standards. All right, so when integrity is shared, Virgo becomes one of the safest archetypes in the room, not because they control, but because they maintain. They protect continuity, they prevent small failures becoming big disasters. They keep love livable by keeping life functional. Virgo is not the enemy of softness. Virgo is what makes softness sustainable. So, Virgo needs the right containment for their system. All right, so are we getting there yet? We're getting there. All right, cool. Finally. I went too hard. All right, moral load ranking. Oh, that's not what I wanted. We're moving into the inner and outer masculine finally. Okay. I've literally filmed this twice, and this will be my last time. All right. All right, so let's go quadrant by quadrant. Inner containment individually. The universal sequence. Every human psyche has 4 containment quadrants. Outer feminine, which is perception, attunement, reading the field, environmental scanning, and emotional field reading. Inner feminine, nervous system memory, safety storage, attachment, somatic history. Inner masculine, sovereignty, values, meaning, moral spine, and internal authority. Outer masculine, action, enforcement, consequence boundaries, and delivery. Healthy development goes. Outer feminine, inner masculine, outer masculine. Perception first, safety second, values third, action last. That order matters. Trauma reverses it, responsibility reverses it, collapse reverses it. That reversal is how moral load bearers are created. All right, so we're going to go over the childhood developmental arc first. So, childhood, Virgo learns to help early, fixes adults emotionally, and becomes hyper responsible. Pattern tracking early, Virgo kids notice inconsistency, errors, and imbalance. They become helpers, fixers, quiet adjusters. They internalize what did I miss? Shame begins early, procedural shame. Young adulthood and adolescence develops perfectionism, internalizes failure, and tries to be useful to belong. They have service identity. They become hyper competent, overgiving, and quietly exhausted. They fix instead of feel. They correct instead of confront. They carry operational burden. Early adulthood overgives, overfunctions, attracts wounded partners. Midlife, burnout, withdrawal, sudden clarity, and boundaries appear. Resentment, crystallization. Virgo calcifies. They stop explaining, they stop adjusting, they silently withdraw. This is when they say, I'm done, but calmly and file closed. Late life. Integrated Virgo becomes precise but kind, discerning without cruelty, deeply supportive with boundaries. Unintegrated Virgo becomes bitter, hypercritical, emotionally sterile. I know both kinds. Integrated adulthood, service becomes choice, standards remain, but martyrdom ends. So I do know both kinds of Virgos. It especially shows up in the female Virgos. I have seen I always say it like this. When I see a very bitter Virgo female, I explain to people that they used to be a people pleaser and they swung way far out on the other side. And so they become very bitter. And that's very unfortunate. That's just what happens when you get taken advantage of your whole life, not understanding your own personality. It's extremely unfortunate. It's extremely imperative that the archetypes that are the top 4 moral load bearers understand this, because they're the ones that are going to hold everything together. They're going to be taken advantage of. They're going to be a doormat. They're going to turn the other cheek. It's just certain personalities, especially Cancer and Virgo and Pisces, Capricorn. Scorpios are the odd man out. They have better boundaries. Especially extroverted feeling users are normally the doormats. So it's unfortunate, but I'm here to try to explain. All right, so Virgo in relationships. Virgo loves through maintenance. They show love by remembering details, anticipating needs, fixing problems, stabilizing chaos, tracking patterns, and making life work. They don't say I love you, they reorganize your life. But when unreciprocated, they silently adjust until they disappear. Virgo women often becomes the emotional infrastructure, expected to care, fix, support, organize, and soothe. Burns out from invisible labor. If you don't understand what emotional labor is, watch the Cancer video. I go in depth with that for about 20 minutes, which is also imperative for you because, yes, you have extroverted feeling hero. You fall into the emotional labor category. All right, so they burn out from invisible labor, which a huge portion of invisible labor is emotional labor. Then they learn to armor with competence, and softness goes underground. So they become pretty masculine. They can become pretty masculine. Virgo men often becomes functional backbone, carries logistics without recognition, suppresses vulnerability, and collapses into rigidity or withdrawal when overwhelmed. Virgo burnout recovery. Virgo heals through shared maintenance, explicit roles, early expression, distributed responsibility, permission to rest without guilt, learning to ask instead of adjust, standards without self-erasure, and service without martyrdom. Most important, Virgo must learn to speak discomfort early, not after they've already adapted. So you are a mutable sign, mutable in the thinking and practicality in the practical world. So mutable signs, they tend to go with the flow. So that's not always good. All right, so the big law across the 4 tiers. So tier 1 and 2, which we have gone through Capricorn, Scorpio, tier 1. Tier 2, we're at the end of tier 2, Cancer and Virgo. Tier 1 and 2 archetypes, top 4 moral load bearers don't age by years. They age by containment load. They mature where pressure is placed. They break where burden is unshared. They awaken sovereignty late because they were forced into service early. Why relationships change after 35? Because inner masculine finally activates. People stop absorbing, they start choosing. That's not selfish, that's developmental completion. Most people don't evolve. They activate quadrants under pressure. Capricorn was forced into action. Scorpio was forced into perception. Cancer was forced into care, and Virgo was forced into maintenance. Later in life, they reclaim the parts they never got to develop. That's delayed containment integration. All right, so inner containment architecture. Virgo does not contain emotionally like Cancer. They do not contain structurally like Capricorn. It is all about maintenance. I think we hammered that pretty hard. All right, so now we're going to get into now we're finally going to get to where I've been wanting to get, and I'm on page 67. If you can't tell, this is my favorite part of the video. Page 67 out of what? 148? 148. Okay. Alrighty. We made it. We made it. All right. All right. So outer feminine, we have extroverted feeling hero and Mercury, where Virgo appears calm, helpful, and competent. I got to change this song. This is ridiculous. All right. This is good. All right. So relational maintenance and human optimization. This is Virgo's front-facing consciousness. FE hero reads... It does read emotional atmosphere, but don't forget it is more in an analytical, practical way. Mercury analyzes process. This is what people see: responsiveness, support, fixing, thoughtfulness, attunement to practical needs, emotional soothing through usefulness. Virgo's outer feminine ask, what needs to be adjusted so this works better? Their love language is improvement. They don't say, I care. They say, let me handle that. This quadrant is why Virgo becomes the emotional operations manager in relationships. They don't absorb emotion, they absorb responsibility for functionality. This quadrant is relational containment through service. But here is the cost. When Virgo overuses this quadrant, they overfunction, compensate for others, absorb labor silently, become the invisible stabilizer. This is where it accumulates. Virgo's exhaustion starts here. All right, so the outer feminine is the relational attunement, behavioral calibration, service-based care, where Virgo reads the social environment through usefulness, responsibility, and responsiveness, instinctively moving towards fixing, organizing, supporting, and improving what's out of alignment. So they do not feel the emotional field like Cancer. Virgo feels what needs done practically. They sense inefficiency, imbalance, unmet needs, dropped responsibilities, and subtle dysfunction, and immediately move into correction mode. They notice what's off: tone, energy, hygiene, logistics, emotional climate, workflow, and efficiency. This is where Virgo becomes the invisible caretaker. They don't just empathize, they adjust. Immutable temperament. They reorganize reality so people can function. This is why Virgo becomes indispensable and invisible. So FE, hero, expresses care through action. Mercury expresses care through precision. Virgo bonds by helping. They love by making things work. This is why Virgo becomes the operational backbone of relationships and systems. This is Virgo's service radar. Mercury rules Virgo traditionally, so this quadrant is hyperactive. This is where Virgo scans environments for inefficiency, senses unmet needs, notices drop details, tracks behavioral inconsistencies, feels responsible for functional harmony. Psychologically, this is Virgo's relational nervous system. Astrologically, Mercury here is not abstract thinking. It's concrete. It's operational intelligence. This is where they assess. They enter relationships already watching who followed through, who didn't, where the system is leaking. This is why Virgo appears calm while already working. They don't wait for emotional expression, they move straight into adjustment. Developmentally, this forms in childhood when Virgo learns, if I fix it, things stay stable. So outer feminine becomes helpfulness equals safety. This is where Virgo becomes the invisible stabilizer. Mercury in Virgo, operational intelligence, pattern correction, and the architecture of repair. All right, so first, what Mercury actually means. Mercury is not just speech or thinking. Mercury governs perception processing, data sorting, pattern recognition, translation of experience into structure, how information moves through the nervous system, and how reality becomes understandable. Mercury answers what is happening, how do I interpret this, what variables matter, and what needs adjustment. Mercury is cognition in motion. It is the interface between mind and world. Virgo is Mercury's home. Gemini is Mercury's air mode. Virgo is Mercury's earth mode. Gemini explores information. Virgo implements information. Gemini asks what is possible. Virgo asks what actually works. So Mercury in Virgo is not abstract thinking like in Gemini. It is functional intelligence. It does not theorize, it optimizes. It doesn't debate ideas, it corrects systems. Mercury in Virgo, micro awareness. Virgo Mercury sees inconsistencies, inefficiencies, missing steps, flawed processes, subtle misalignments, and behavioral contradictions, not emotionally, mechanically. This is surgical perception. They don't scan for vibes, they scan for variables. They don't feel chaos, they measure it. This is why Virgo notices what others miss. They're literally running diagnostic software. Mercury is why Virgo cannot unsee things. Once Virgo Mercury detects a flaw, it is logged. They cannot pretend it didn't happen. Mercury stores it, Earth grounds it, SI remembers it. Now it becomes precedent. This is why Virgo doesn't forgive patterns. Mercury tracks repetition. They don't react to isolated incidents. They react to data trends. Mercury creates Virgo's internal quality control department. Virgo Mercury is always auditing. Tone, workflow, behavior, effort, consistency, logic, and outcomes. Not because they're judgmental, because their nervous system is wired for optimization. Mercury is constantly asking, where's this breaking? How do we improve it? What's the fix? That's containment through cognition. Mercury with Earth, maintenance consciousness. This is the core. Mercury detects, Earth applies. Together they form maintenance intelligence. Virgo does not carry emotion. Virgo carries function. They don't hold feelings, they hold systems. They become the operational spine of relationships, families, and workplaces. This is why Virgo ends up doing the scheduling, remembering, correcting, organizing, following up, fixing mistakes, and tracking responsibilities. I like to call them they act like managers. They're like the middleman. They're not like the CEO, they're the middleman, like HR or supervision of some sort. Not because they want control, because Mercury sees breakdown before others feel it, and Earth cannot ignore it. Mercury is why Virgo burns out quietly. Mercury never shuts off. It keeps scanning, even while Virgo sleeps. So they are constantly processing what needs doing, what wasn't done, what could go wrong. This creates mental fatigue, decision exhaustion, cognitive overload, and correction fatigue. They're always running background diagnostics. Other people rest emotionally, Virgo rests operationally, which almost never happens. All right, so Mercury in Virgo creates help through fixing. Mercury translates distress into task. So Virgo doesn't comfort first, they problem solve first. They bring solutions, they reorganize chaos, they make checklists, they create systems. This is how Virgo loves. They don't hold you, they stabilize your life. All right, so Mercury and Neptune. So Virgo is opposite Pisces, but you always get pulls off of polarity. So archetypally speaking, Virgo is the opposite of Pisces, Pisces the opposite of Virgo. You will find both qualities of each other in each other. So Virgo carries Pisces overflow. I'm sorry. Virgo cleans it up. Pisces dissolves into suffering. Neptune sends compassion. Mercury converts it into action. So Virgo does not feel collective grief. They fix collective dysfunction. That's why Virgo attracts broken people. They turn pain into projects. Mercury creates Virgo's shame loop. Virgo's shame is not emotional, it's cognitive. When something fails, Mercury asks, where is the flaw? What step was missed? What variable was not accounted for? They don't think I'm bad. They think I miscalculated. That is devastating. They internalize failure as system error. This is procedural shame. Like I said, they start debugging themselves. That's self-correction fatigue. Mercury is why Virgo becomes critical under stress. When containment collapses, Mercury sharpens. They become hyperspecific, detail-obsessed, corrective, and micromanaging. Mercury and TI inferior. Here's where it gets brutal. Mercury collects data. Introverted thinking, or TI, tries to formalize conclusions, but TI is inferior. So when Virgo reaches collapse, Mercury hands TI 1,000 data points. TI says conclusion reached, then Venus in fall feels worthless. So they exit, not emotionally, administratively. They stop explaining, they disengage, the audit is complete. Healthy Mercury in Virgo. Integrated Mercury looks like clear communication, early boundary setting, collaborative problem solving, shared responsibility, correction without resentment, asking instead of fixing, and rest without guilt. Virgo learns I don't have to solve everything. I can name imbalance early, and others must co-carry. Then Mercury becomes brilliant, not burdensome. All right, so now we're going to move on to inner masculine. So the inner masculine is introverted sensing parent and earth. All right, so where Virgo privately holds the ledger of effort, reliability, and follow through, remembering who showed up, who didn't, what worked, and what broke over time. This is a continuity memory, pattern recognition, and responsibility tracking. SI parent stores lived precedent. Virgo remembers routines, habits, commitments, repeated behaviors, and accountability patterns. Practically, they track what actually happens. This becomes Virgo's internal compass. Their inner masculine is not visionary like Cancer's NI. It is historical. Virgo builds future stability by referencing past behavior. That's why Virgo struggles to trust words without consistency. So SI is the ledger nobody sees. This is Virgo's true containment core. SI parent tracks who followed through, who didn't, how many times it happened, where effort was uneven, and what pattern keeps repeating. So I'm not going to dive really deep into the cognitive function. I don't want to, but I'm going to. Give me one moment. If I can find the correct... I wasn't going to do this, but I feel the need. I've got to pull up a book really quickly. All right, so give me one moment. Hopefully I can get to this quickly. I'm pulling up a 500-page book, and I'm going to get into introverted sensing. All right, so introverted sensing. So it is the archive of the soul, the body's memory, and the keeper of the past. It is one of the 4 perceiving functions. It absorbs, records, and preserves. It is the internal hard drive of the psyche, storing experiences, sensations, impressions, emotional memories, bodily reactions, trauma, patterns, routines, safety cues, and familiarity. So, having high SI in your archetype means you have a very good memory, long-term memory, huge RAM of storage for details. So SI is an introverted perception function, meaning it turns inward, it is subjective, it is personal, it is sensory, emotional, it records based on felt experience. It collects tone, texture, safety signals, bodily sensations, emotional context, memories tied to physical experience. So SI does not observe the outer world, that's SE. Instead, it observes the inner sensory world. It is the sense of, I remember the way this felt, my body knows this reminds me of something, I've been here before, I know this pattern. SI is the hold on a second. SI is the past, the inner historian. SI remembers details, names, dates, tone of voice, emotional climate, environmental context, and physical sensations and symbolic cues. So SI users, like I said, carries massive storage capacity. So I don't want to get into that one. So SI knows history repeats itself. All that has happened before can happen again. SI's greatest gift is pattern recall across time. It remembers emotional cycles, relationship patterns, danger signals, ancestral lessons, generational trauma, and karmic repetitions. SI records everything. So it seeks comfort, predictability, calm, familiar people, stable routines, and consistent environments. It needs consistency, accuracy, and rooted truth. SI builds its inner world through repeated experience, accuracy, predictability, stability, and internal references. It seeks stable routines, clear instructions, accurate information, sensory grounding, loyal relationships, and emotional consistency. All right, so I'm going to go through just a little more and then I want to move on. So, introverted sensing is reviewing past experiences, linking new things to old things, recognizing patterns across time, seeking familiarity, preserving tradition, replacing what worked, or replicating, what worked, stabilizing through known standards, and grounding through memory. It aids growth by reminding us of lessons, showing consequences, preventing repeated mistakes, creating emotional security, and grounding intuition into reality. So it can make you extremely stubborn, but Virgos are mutable. They're relational at first, but once they get into their stubborn groove, you're not going to be able, they act like Taurus. You're not going to be able to move them once they get there. It takes a lot to get them there, but once they're there, it's over. All right, so that's enough of the SI cognitive function. I just wanted to go over that real quick. All right, so where was I? All right, so Virgo doesn't feel betrayal first. They document it, they record it. This creates the paper cut burnout dynamic. A Virgo rarely leaves because of one incident. They leave because pattern confirmed. When SI parent loses trust, Virgo shuts down emotionally, not reactively, but permanently. Door slam. This is the silent containment collapse. This is Virgo's real containment core. So, SI parent stores lived precedent, repetition patterns, reliability history, and behavioral consistency. Earth here is embodiment. This is memory in the body. Their nervous system catalogs this happened, then this, then again. That's why Virgo doesn't forgive patterns. Developmentally, this forms in adolescence when Virgo realizes some people don't change, some systems decay, so they begin tracking reality instead of hoping. This is when Virgo stops trusting words. This is also where procedural shame forms. What did I miss? What should I have caught sooner? Not moral shame, but mechanical shame. So they do feel guilty for not optimizing the system. This is why Virgo becomes hyper-responsible. They internalize error as personal duty. So why SI and Earth is intermasculine? All right, so the masculine is structure, direction, enforcement. Feminine is reception, integration, and containment. So it's based on function. Masculine decides, organizes, enforces, and stabilizes. Feminine receives, holds, absorbs, and integrates. So then we add the second axis, inner and outer. So inner is the nervous system and private processing. Outer is relational and environmental interface. So the inner feminine is internal containment. Inner masculine is internal structure. And then outer feminine is external containment. Outer masculine is external structure. Okay. So this is where a lot of people are going to get confused because SI can feel soft. But SI is not feminine in this system. SI is internalized structure. SI does not feel first. SI records. SI organizes lived experience into precedent. It asks what happened last time, what broke, what worked, what failed. This is structural processing, not emotional processing. And Earth grounds that into realism, consequence, material continuity, and operational integrity. So together, SI and Earth is the internal architecture. This quadrant builds internal rules, tracks outcomes, remembers consequence, calibrates future behavior, enforces precedent quietly. This is masculine, just internal. Inner masculine. This is why Virgo and Capricorn both carry silent standards, internal accountability, private self-discipline, and consequence awareness. They don't feel reality, they structure it inside themselves. That's inner masculine. So, I had to hammer that. All right, so Earth and Virgo. Semantic integrity, material conscience, and embodied responsibility. So what Earth actually means, not the element, the actual embodiment here. So we're not talking the Earth element, we're talking it as a cognitive function, planetary imprint. All right, so Earth is not just grounded or practical. Earth is embodiment, and I just want to say one thing. Astrologers never talk about Earth. So if you're an astrologer and you don't have Earth here, yeah, you can have Earth temperamentally, but it goes a lot deeper. So please, for the love of goodness, look more into Earth. Thank you. I appreciate it. I'm not going to go down that whole rant train, but it's a huge deal. All right, so Earth is embodiment, physical consequence, nervous system realism, material continuity, lived responsibility, semantic memory, survival infrastructure, and maintenance of form. Maintenance of form. Earth governs what exists, what lasts, what breaks, what requires upkeep, what costs energy, what deteriorates over time. Earth is reality once imagination is over. So if you want to look at it elementally, fire initiates, air conceptualizes, water feels, and earth maintains. Earth asks, can this actually survive? Not emotionally, physically. Virgo is Earth and Mercury. So this is critical. Virgo is not abstract Earth like how Taurus can play out. Not structural Earth like Capricorn. Virgo is functional Earth. Virgo governs hygiene, repair, routines, health, logistics, process integrity, operational continuity, and system maintenance. Virgo doesn't build monuments. Virgo keeps things running. Virgo is the mechanic of reality. This is Earth in service mode. Earth here is not stability, it is maintenance under entropy. Virgo is Earth that knows everything decays. So it intervenes early. So think about Virgo in fall. Virgo is the in-between of spring and fall. Or is it fall and winter? Let me think. Virgo, fall. Yeah, spring and fall. Right? Summer? Why am I saying spring? It's almost spring. Sorry. Geez. Summer and fall. Because Leo is summer. Virgo is bringing summer into fall. Libra is fall. So Virgo understands entropy and decay, going from summer into fall. They know things can die and what it takes to maintain. Very awesome when you get seasonally into the archetypes. So Virgo is Earth that knows everything decays, so it intervenes early. Earth and Virgo, semantic error detection. This is huge psychologically. Virgo doesn't just notice problems, they feel them in their body. Their nervous system picks up misalignment, inefficiency, imbalance, and disorder as physical discomfort. Earth and Virgo makes dysfunction visceral, not dramatic, persistent. Like background static. This is why Virgo can't relax in messy systems. OCDness. Their body literally cannot settle. They are sensing entropy. This is embodied pattern recognition, not necessarily anxiety. Earth intelligence. Virgo carries reality in their body. Cancer carries emotion in their body. Virgo carries responsibility in their body. Earth and Virgo stores unfinished tasks, broken routines, unmet needs, operational gaps, and responsibility drift as muscular tension, as fatigue, as digestive issues, as chronic tightness, as burnout. Virgo doesn't disassociate from dysfunction. They metabolize it physically. That's Earth. They don't just remember failures, they embody them. Earth and SI is procedural memory. So this is the inner masculine quadrant. SI remembers precedent, Earth makes it real. Together they create procedural accountability. Hopefully this is making a little sense. Earth is why Virgo can't let things go. People tell Virgo just let it go. They cannot, because Earth is not emotional processing. Earth is material consequence. If something broke, someone must fix it. Earth doesn't release responsibility through feelings. It releases responsibility through repair. That's why Virgo keeps fixing. That is Earth's logic. Earth creates Virgo's moral code. Virgo morality is not abstract. It's operational. Did it help? Did it work? Did it stabilize? Did it reduce harm? Did it improve function? That is Earth's ethics. Virgo believes morality lives in outcomes, not intentions, not words, results. This is why Virgo hates excuses. Earth doesn't care about feelings, only functionality. So now layer Venus, which we'll get into next. Or no, not next. We still have a whole nother quadrant. Actually, I'm not even going to mention this yet. Or should I? Yeah, it's kind of cool to see the dynamics. All right, so now we're going to layer Venus. Venus governs worth. In Virgo, Venus is in fall. Earth tells Venus value comes from contribution. So Virgo learns rest feels irresponsible, receiving feels undeserved, being without doing feels wrong. They don't feel lovable unless they're productive. That's Earth overriding Venus. They embody usefulness as identity. That's why Virgo burns out. They never stop earning their right to exist. Earth and Neptune, sacred maintenance. This is subtle and important. Neptune brings compassion. Earth makes it practical. So Virgo doesn't spiritualize transcendence. They spiritualize repair. They don't pray, they clean. They don't escape suffering, they organize it. They don't dissolve boundaries emotionally, they dissolve chaos operationally. This is why Virgo feels spiritually responsible for broken systems. Neptune says suffering is collective. Earth says someone has to fix it. Guess who volunteers? All right, Earth is why Virgo hardens instead of cries. When Virgo burns out, they don't melt, they crystallize. Earth does not dissolve, Earth compacts. They become quieter, colder, more precise, more detached, and more clinical. Not because they stopped caring, because Earth is protecting form. They go into structural preservation mode. That's Earth survival. Healthy Earth and Virgo. Integrated Earth looks like clear routines, shared responsibility, realistic expectations, embodied boundaries, rest without guilt, maintenance distributed, repair, collaboration. Virgo stops holding the world alone. They let systems co-carry. Earth relaxes when weight is shared. That's integration. So, inner feminine. Moving into the next quadrant. So we have extroverted intuition, Jupiter, and Neptune here. I can't wait for people to start. Like, I've attracted some very high conscious people, but like this work is extremely deep. And so, like, it's exciting to me. It's exciting. Anyways, this is very advanced stuff. So, anywho, internal meaning, hope, and ideal repair. Inner feminine is where the nervous system receives possibility. This quadrant does not organize, it opens. NE imagines alternatives, Jupiter believes in growth, and Neptune adds spiritual meaning and redemption fantasy. This is receptive consciousness. It says maybe this can improve, maybe this can heal, maybe there's another way, maybe we don't have to end it. This is the inner feminine. This quadrant absorbs potential. It does not enforce, it does not structure, it hopes. That's feminine. And because it's inner, Virgo does not broadcast these hopes. So this is like very, very core softness that you would never know that was there unless you are watching this video. I'm just kidding. So they carry them privately. This is why Virgo stays too long, not because of attachment, because inner feminine still believes in repair. So this is the possibility sensing, adaptive imagination, and meaning seeking, where Virgo holds quiet hope for improvement, alternative outcomes, and better systems, often giving people many chances while internally recalibrating expectations. This is Virgo's soft center. Any child imagines potential growth, better versions of people, future corrections, improved processes. Jupiter adds optimism. This is why Virgo stays longer than they should. They keep thinking maybe this can be fixed. But when this hope is repeatedly violated, Virgo withdraws. So any child hope for improvement. I think I said enough of that part. So yeah, I mentioned that too with yeah, this is unfortunate for Virgo, and I don't know anyone else that has ever I might repeat myself a little bit cuz I don't know anyone else covering this information at all. So inherited from Pisces. So I did mention this earlier. So the Neptune and Jupiter is inherited from Pisces. And I'm just realizing, oh no, okay. So the extroverted intuition. Okay, so I'm looking at my key card here. All right, so this is critical. Virgo is opposite of Pisces. So Virgo inherits Pisces spiritual overflow. Pisces feels the suffering of the world. Virgo has to make it livable. Okay, so any child imagines improvement. Jupiter brings idealism. Neptune brings compassion residue. This quadrant creates helper fantasy, savior fixing, moral perfectionism, spiritualized service. Maybe if I fix this, it will feel better. Virgo does not feel infinity. Virgo cleans infinity up off the floor. This is why Virgo attracts broken people. They're holding Pisces' unfinished grief. This quadrant is Virgo's hope layer. This is Virgo's quiet idealism. They do not advertise it. So Neptune creates the repair fantasy, not delusion like Pisces, optimization fantasy. Virgo doesn't imagine perfect love. They imagine better systems. This is why Virgo stays too long. They don't cling. They cling emotionally. They cling structurally. They keep believing effort will fix it. This is also why Virgo burnout hurts so deeply, because they didn't just lose a relationship. They lost a future they were quietly engineering. Developmentally, this peaks in youth, adulthood. This is when Virgo gives people chances, refines processes, and keeps adjusting. Eventually, any child exhausts itself. Then SI parent takes over. Okay. Let's see what else. I'm exhausted here. I've got 48 more pages. All right. So I might go in. I really hammered this pretty deeply. I am going to have all this information in my next book that I upload. Okay, so Neptune and Jupiter sit together in Virgo. It's a very quiet but powerful force. So this is not visionary spirituality like Pisces. It's spiritualized usefulness. Virgo does not dream in abstractions the way Pisces does. Virgo dreams in improvements. Neptune here does not dissolve boundaries emotionally. It dissolves boundaries through responsibility. Jupiter here does not expand belief, it expands duty. So instead of I feel called to save the world, Virgo feels someone has to handle this. This is where Virgo's unconscious martyr complex comes from. Not ego, not control, not people pleasing, sacred obligation. They don't think I want to help. Their nervous system thinks if I don't do this, it will not get done right. That's Neptune and Jupiter in Virgo. So Neptune in Virgo does not dissolve ego. It dissolves inefficiency. It creates sacred responsibility. This is why Virgo feels morally burdened by small failures. Neptune here says everything matters. That's exhausting. This is also why Virgo gets spiritually exploited. They confuse repair with virtue. They think if I fix this, it's meaningful. That's Neptune speaking. What Neptune means specifically in Virgo. Neptune governs compassion, sacrifice, spiritual meaning, and boundary dissolution. But Virgo filters Neptune through Mercury and Earth. So Neptune doesn't become mysticism, it becomes functional empathy. Virgo absorbs suffering, not essentially like Scorpio, but operationally. They see inefficiency, imbalance, or distress and immediately translate it into what needs fixing. Neptune dissolves separation. Virgo translates that dissolution into task. This is why Virgo doesn't cry first. They clean first, they organize first, they correct first. They try to make things work. That's Neptune moving through service. Jupiter in Virgo, expansion through responsibility. Jupiter normally governs meaning, faith, optimism, and growth. But Jupiter is that's what it traditionally means. Virgo does not experience expansion through belief. They experience expansion through usefulness. They don't trust big visions, they trust small corrections. They don't feel spiritually fulfilled by inspiration. They feel fulfilled by improvement. So Jupiter expands workload, standards, responsibility, expectations, and self-accountability. Not confidence, not faith, effort. Jupiter in Virgo creates the internal voice. If I can just make this better, everything will stabilize. This is why Virgo overworks. They believe improvement creates safety. So Neptune and Jupiter together, the helper archetype. Also, you are also known as a supporter. So when Neptune, compassion, and Jupiter meaning combine in Virgo, you get redemptive service consciousness. Virgo unconsciously believes that fixing heals, helping stabilizes, correcting prevents collapse, and effort equals love. They don't feel worthy through being. They feel worthy through contribution. This is why Virgo struggles to rest. Rest feels morally suspicious. If there's something wrong somewhere, Virgo feels it in their body. That's Neptune dissolving boundaries. But instead of floating away, Virgo picks up the broom. Literally. Shadow expression, spiritualized overfunctioning. When Virgo is uncontained, Neptune and Jupiter becomes compulsive helping, over responsibility, savior fatigue, invisible martyrdom, fixing people who didn't ask, correcting instead of confronting, exhaustion masked as competence. They don't say I'm overwhelmed. They say it's fine, I'll handle it. Neptune makes suffering feel collective. Jupiter makes responsibility feel infinite. And Virgo becomes the unpaid emotional maintenance department of reality. So burnout pattern here. This is where Virgo differs from Cancer and Capricorn. Cancer dissolves emotionally, Capricorn seals structurally. Virgo collapses into numb productivity. They keep functioning long after their heart is empty. They don't explode, they calcify. They become quiet, precise, detached, and still helping. but no longer connected. That's Neptune retreating and Jupiter going flat. They don't fall apart. They shut down inside competence. This is the most dangerous Virgo state because no one notices. Integrated expression, healthy Neptune and Jupiter. When Virgo is integrated, they stop saving, they start sharing, they stop correcting silently, they communicate early, they stop carrying the system alone, they require reciprocity, they allow themselves to receive. They realize service without containment is self-erasure. Healthy Virgo learns, I don't have to fix everything. I can name dissatisfaction early. Responsibility must be shared. Care does not equal sacrifice, and improvement does not require martyrdom. Neptune becomes compassion with boundaries. Jupiter becomes meaning with limits. And Virgo becomes a healer instead of a hidden casualty. Okay, now we're going to move on to outer masculine with introverted thinking inferior and Venus. So this is the corrective logic, boundary enforcement, and decisive engagement, where Virgo finally stops explaining, stops helping, and starts enforcing, cutting access when integrity has been breached too many times. All right, so here I wanted to make this into its own little, let me see. I don't know if I want to go into this here because it's like a whole big bomb drop. Okay, I'm not gonna say this right now, I don't think. I don't know if I want to say this yet. I don't know if I want to say this yet. It's like a whole okay, this is foundational, so I am going to make that into its own video. Sorry, I had to really sit on that for a second. All right, I'm not going to go there yet. I will make that its own video. We're almost 2 hours in and I don't want to like drop a bomb. I'm just going to keep going on the tracks. Okay. All right, so we're talking about outer masculine TI and Venus in fall. Cognitive finalization and value withdrawal. So what TI actually is cognitively. Introverted thinking, or TI, is internal logic coherence. Not debate, not argument, not facts. TI is internal consistency, private truth framework, structural clarity, pattern logic, internal decision, and meaning compression. TI asks, does this make sense? Not emotionally, not socially, structurally. TI strips situations down to cause and effect, input, output, effort, result, and pattern and outcome. TI is not concerned with harmony. That's FE. TI is concerned with correctedness, not moral correctedness, mechanical correctedness. TI reduces reality to principles. It says, given everything I've observed, this is what is actually happening. That's TI. It is silent. It is internal. It does not persuade. It concludes. So TI in the inferior in Virgo. Because Virgo leads with FE and SI, TI lives in the basement, which means Virgo does not naturally operate from detached logic. They operate from service, FE, precedent, SI, hope, and E, and meaning with Jupiter. They feel responsible. They feel responsibility. They remember patterns. They hope for improvement. They don't start with logic. They end with it. Inferior TI only activates after emotional and operational exhaustion, which is why it feels extreme. TI inferior is not analytical. It is terminal. It comes online when Virgo has tried to help, to adjust, to improve, to repair, to compensate, and none of it worked. Then TI appears suddenly like a verdict. Judge, jury, and executioner. That's where the whips come out. Then I'm going to be quiet. I know your darkest secrets, Virgo. Anyway, then TI appears suddenly like a verdict. not as curiosity, as conclusion. This is when Virgo internally says, this is not coherent anymore. And once TI arrives, Virgo becomes unmovable. They're no longer in relational processing, they're in structural assessment. TI inferior collapses complexity into one clear internal sentence. This does not work. That's it. No more emotional negotiation, no more hopeful projections, no more benefit of the doubt. The file is closed. Why TI inferior feels so cold to others? Because it is an icy sort of truth. Because Virgo doesn't use TI early. TI arrives last, so when it does, it feels abrupt. Partners think they changed overnight. No, Virgo finally stopped feeling. They started calculating. That's TI inferior. And once Virgo reaches TI, there's no return to FE. They don't go back to caretaking. They don't reopen emotionally. They move into silent execution. What Venus actually governs. Venus is not romance. Venus is value. It governs attachment, desire, relational gravity, pleasure, bonding, what feels worth it, what we invest energy into, and what we stay connected to. Venus answers, do I want this? Do I value this? Does this nourish me? Is this meaningful? Venus is how the nervous system decides stay or detach. It's not emotional processing, that's the moon. It's not logic, that's Mercury and TI. It's attraction and worth. Venus in fall in Virgo. So this is huge. Venus in Virgo is in fall, which means Venus does not feel safe expressing desire, softness, or relational need directly. Instead, Venus gets filtered through usefulness, functionality, contribution, effort, and service. So Virgo doesn't feel worthy through being, they feel worthy through doing. Venus in Virgo does not ask, do I feel loved? It asks, am I useful? Am I contributing? Am I improving things? Am I helping? That's Venus here. This is why Virgo bonds through service. This is why Virgo expresses love through fixing. This is why they struggle to receive, because Venus in fall does not trust passive value. They don't believe they matter unless they contribute. That's devastating. Venus collapse in Virgo. When Venus finally breaks in Virgo, it doesn't cry, it disengages. Virgo does not become dramatic, they become indifferent. Apathy. They stop caring, they stop wanting, they stop investing. They don't feel heartbroken, they feel empty. This is value collapse, not emotional collapse. Venus simply withdraws energy from the relationship. That's why Virgo exits feel so final, because Venus has already unplugged. So TI inferior and Venus in fall together. This is Virgo's true severing mechanism. Venus detaches and TI finalizes. Together they create clinical detachment. This looks like emotional availability removed, communication minimized, effort withdrawn, boundaries enforced quietly, presence reduced, and access revoked. They disappear, they do not attack. TI says this no longer makes sense. Venus says this no longer matters. That combination ends relationships permanently. Why this is different from other archetypes. Scorpio burns bridges, Capricorn walls off, Cancer dissolves emotionally, Virgo administratively closes the file. So they disengage and stop maintaining. So integration expression. When healthy, Virgo uses TI early. They clarify standards before collapse. They express dissatisfaction before Venus dies. They communicate boundaries before detachment. They don't wait until burnout. They don't silently audit. They speak. That's integration. TI becomes discernment. Venus becomes self-worth. Service becomes choice, not martyrdom. So Virgo doesn't end relationships with anger. They end them when Venus stops feeling value and TI confirms the pattern. That's their quiet goodbye. All right, so Virgo containment development across life. I'm going to have to switch my earbuds. I apologize. I need music when I do this. Give me one moment. My earbud's dying. And a really awesome jam just came on too. All right, I'm gonna have to start this song over. All right, Virgo containment development across life. Early nervous system develops through 4 containment stages, but Virgo does not move through them cleanly. Virgo is usually forced into responsibility early, which reverses the natural order. Instead of inner feminine, inner masculine, outer feminine, outer masculine, Virgo often develops outer feminine, inner masculine, inner feminine, outer masculine. They learn to help first, structure second, hope third, and exit last. That's why Virgo burns out quietly. So let's walk it. All right, so inner feminine, stage 1, ages 0 to 7. So we've got Neptune, Jupiter, and extroverted intuition. So this is normally what happens. This is not the correct order. Actually, yeah, this is the correct order. I thought I was going to say Virgo. Okay, so yeah. Okay, so I did walk the correct order. That makes more sense. Okay. I forgot which way I did it. Excuse me. Okay. Sorry, this space heater in coldness, it's like 15 degrees. Driving my nose insane. All right, so stage 1, inner feminine, ages 0 to 7. All right, so theme, meaning, safety, repair, fantasy. This is where Virgo absorbs Pisces residue, not emotionally like Cancer, existentially through usefulness. All right. Double checking my work always. But Virgo filters. Okay, so where was I? This is where Virgo absorbs Pisces residue, not emotionally like Cancer, existentially through usefulness. Neptune dissolves boundaries, Jupiter searches for meaning, but Virgo filters both through Mercury and Earth. So instead of I feel suffering, Virgo internalizes something is wrong. They don't absorb emotion, they absorb dysfunction. This stage teaches Virgos, I notice problems, I sense instability, I feel responsible for fixing, improvement feels sacred. Neptune here creates repair spiritually. The child learns if I help, things calm down. So belonging becomes conditional, not on love, on usefulness. This forms Virgo's deepest wound. I matter if I contribute, not I matter because I exist. This is where Virgo's helper archetype is born. Stage 2, inner masculine, ages 7 through 14. SI, Earth. SI, parent, and Earth. So, theme, integrity, precedent, and procedural responsibility. This is where Virgo becomes internally structural. SI records what broke, what failed, who showed up, what had to be fixed. Earth grounds it in consequence. So Virgo develops internal quality control. They don't learn values emotionally, they learn them procedurally. This creates silent standards, private accountability, internal discipline, and self-surveillance. This is where Virgo shame forms, not moral shame, mechanical shame. What did I miss? What should I have caught? How did this degrade? They internalize error as personal duty. This is Virgo's core self-correction loop. They start debugging reality and themselves. Stage 3, outer feminine. So we have outer feminine is extroverted feeling in Mercury. Theme, relational responsibility through function. Now Virgo turns outward. FE feels responsible for people. Mercury scans systems. So Virgo learns who needs help, what isn't working, where effort is uneven, and how to stabilize environments. They don't connect emotionally like Cancer. They connect through usefulness. They become organizers, fixers, stabilizers, and emotional operations managers. This is where, practically, honestly, this is where Virgo becomes indispensable and invisible. They don't express care, they operationalize it. This is when Virgo starts carrying logistics, follow through, responsibility drift, and emotional labor via function. This is where burnout seeds are planted because Virgo becomes the quiet backbone. And then we have outer masculine, ages 21 and above. TI inferior and Venus in fall. Theme, boundary enforcement through withdrawal. This is Virgo's collapse quadrant. Not rage, not dominance, resolution. TI doesn't argue, it concludes. Venus in fall does not negotiate connection, it withdraws worth. When Virgo finally activates this quadrant, emotional availability shuts down, effort is revoked, access is removed, attachment collapses, and systems are closed. So TI finalizes. They don't fight, they leave. All right, so Cancer carries attachment, Capricorn carries responsibility, Scorpio carries containment, and Virgo carries maintenance. So Virgo matures through service, not safety, not sovereignty, not truth, function. They become adults early, but emotionally late. They fix first, hope second, exit last. So what happens when stage 4 activates too early? Outer masculine must come after inner containment. But Virgo often activates TI in Venus before inner feminine feels safe, inner masculine is honored, and outer feminine is reciprocated. So you get silent withdrawal, emotional refrigeration, clinical boundaries, and sudden exits. Not because Virgo is cold, because the audit finished. So Virgo developmental summary. Stage 1 absorbs dysfunction. Stage 2 internalizes error. Stage 3 becomes operational caretaker. And stage 4 disengages through TI and Venus collapse. So final Virgo developmental truth. Virgo does not grow through expression. Virgo grows through repair. They don't evolve by feeling more. They evolve by learning. I don't have to fix to belong. That is Neptune healing, that is Venus recovery, and that is Virgo integration. All right. All right, so how each... I don't know if I want to get into this tonight. All right, briefly, I'll mention this. How each archetype develops differently. Capricorn is the first. We went over this in the beginning. So they develop early inner masculine, children forced into responsibility. Sequence, inner masculine, outer masculine, inner feminine, outer feminine. Result, structural adults with emotional compression. They act first and feel later. So Scorpio, early inner feminine trauma, then inner masculine sovereignty. Sequence, inner feminine, inner masculine, outer feminine, outer masculine. Result, truth carriers who explode when safety fails. They feel deeply, then enforce violently. Cancer, early outer feminine activation. They learn to care before they learn to contain. So their sequence is outer feminine, inner masculine, outer masculine. Result, emotional adults who carry others before themselves. They absorb first and protect later. So for Virgo, early outer feminine and then inner masculine. They learn service and correction early. Sequence, outer feminine, inner masculine, inner feminine, outer masculine. Result, quiet fixers who burn out silently. They repair first and exit last. Why this matters relationally? Because adults meet at different stages. Some people never build inner masculine. Some never stabilize inner feminine. Some live permanently in outer masculine. Some are stuck in outer feminine. This is why high load women pair with low load men. Some partners feel parented, others feel controlled, and others feel emotionally abandoned. Developmental asymmetry. All right, so how to love a Virgo. This is where people get it wrong. Virgo does not need dramatic passion, grand declarations, constant reassurance, emotional flooding. Virgo needs follow through, reliability, visible effort, shared responsibility, clean boundaries, and improvement over time. Virgo falls in love with consistency. If you want a Virgo to soften, show up the same way repeatedly. Virgo doesn't trust intensity, they trust pattern stability. All right, so containment with a Virgo woman. Virgo women are often conditioned to overfunction, carry domestic and emotional labor, manage logistics, fix relational drift, and track everyone's needs. Her containment collapses when she becomes the invisible operations manager of the relationship. Her effort becomes assumed. Emotional labor is unreciprocated. She becomes the responsible one while others stay reactive. Virgo women soften when responsibility is shared, effort is acknowledged, standards are respected, and she doesn't have to remind you twice. If she stops reminding you, be concerned. That means she's already moving into TI, Venus disengagement, Venus in fall. Containment with a Virgo man. Virgo men contain through usefulness in problem solving. They often express love by fixing, providing, improving, anticipating needs, and creating systems. But culturally, Virgo men can become overly critical, emotionally reserved, hyper-focused on correctedness, and uncomfortable with chaotic emotional expression. Their containment collapses when emotional volatility replaces accountability. They feel unappreciated for effort, their corrections are mocked instead of respected, and standards are framed as control. Virgo men relax when improvement is mutual, emotional conversations have structure, they're allowed to solve without being villainized, and effort is reciprocated. They are not rigid, they are overwhelmed by chaos. So, Virgo relational collapse pattern. So, here's the most important truth Virgo does not collapse from emotional betrayal, Virgo collapses from unbalanced maintenance. If they are the only one improving, only one adjusting, only one remembering, or only one holding standards, they will burn out silently. And when Virgo burns out, they don't scream, they disengage administratively. That's when the relationship ends. So, what Virgo actually needs? A system that holds, a functioning ecosystem. If you want to keep a Virgo, match their effort, respect their corrections, improve visibility, take responsibility without prompting, and don't weaponize their standards. Virgo does not want to control you. They want to stop being the only adult in the room. All right, so Virgo burnout recovery strategy. Why Virgo doesn't explode, they wither. Virgo burnout is not dramatic. It doesn't arrive as rage, tears, or confrontation. It arrives as quiet emotional dehydration. Virgo doesn't collapse outward, Virgo collapses inward. They become efficient without warmth, helpful without heart, functional without intimacy. They keep showing up, but something inside them has already shut down. That's Virgo's burnout. How they actually burn out. Well, I think we've gone over that actually quite a bit. Unreciprocated maintenance. I think I hammered that pretty well. Should I talk about Virgo doesn't carry feelings? All right, I think I've gone over quite a bit of this. I'm just kind of scanning. I've got 8 more pages left. So Virgo recovery does not start with rest. All right, so Virgo cannot recover through vacations, distraction, positive thinking, or surface self-care. Because Virgo burnout is not tiredness, it is moral depletion. Virgo recovers when maintenance becomes shared. Someone else finally carries responsibility without being asked. That alone restores Virgo faster than any spa day. Number 2, effort becomes visible. Virgo needs to see follow through, consistency, repair without prompting, accountability without defensiveness. They don't need emotional reassurance, they need operational change. Number 3, the ledger balances. Virgo heals when contribution becomes reciprocal, not promised, demonstrated. Number 4, their nervous system stops scanning for gaps. Virgo relaxes when they are no longer the only quality control department. So Virgo must stop fixing while hurt. This is Virgo's hardest lesson. They keep repairing while depleted. They keep improving while resentful. They keep showing up while emotionally withdrawing. This delays healing. Virgo must learn if you're fixing, you are still participating. If you're participating, the pattern continues. Recovery requires withholding labor, not increasing it. This feels terrifying to Virgo, but it is essential. What Virgo needs in relationships to prevent burnout. Virgo thrives when effort is mutual, standards are respected, promises are kept, accountability is normal, repair happens without being managed, details matter, and consistency exists. Virgo does not need grand gestures. Virgo needs remembered commitments, clean follow through, emotional maturity, and practical reliability. That is love to Virgo. Reliability. All right, so I have quite a bit here. All right, so I'm going to go to my outro because I'm emotionally, or not emotionally, geez. I'm literally 85% Capricorn or ISTJ, so highest masculine, highest load bearer, so yeah, definitely not. I am energetically drained, so this is my outro. Virgo does not collapse dramatically, they erode quietly. They don't scream when overwhelmed, they tighten. They don't explode when exhausted. When they are exhausted, they harden. They leave when the hope engine shuts off. They don't rage, they finalize. And when Virgo stops maintaining, the system realizes too late what was holding it together. Because Virgo doesn't carry drama, Virgo carries continuity. And when continuity disappears, everything else follows. All right, so now we are done with the top 4 moral load bearers. So Capricorn, Scorpio, Cancer, and Virgo retain moral load automatically. They internalize responsibility whether they want to or not. They become containment when systems fail. They age by burden. They mature through pressure. They break where weight is unshared. What comes next is fundamentally different. Next, we move into tier 3 with Taurus and Pisces. These archetypes feel deeply, they absorb experience intensely, but they do not naturally retain consequence. They are conditional load bearers. They carry sensation, emotion, and atmosphere, but unless consciously developed, they do not carry structural responsibility. And this is where modern culture gets confused because suffering does not equal moral load. Feeling everything does not mean holding the system. Taurus regulates through embodiment, Pisces regulates through dissolution. One escapes through comfort, the other escapes through transcendence. Neither automatically stays with consequence. So in the next video, we're going to explore Taurus, the embodiment archetype, and Pisces, the dissolution archetype. And we're going to look at how pain gets absorbed without accountability, how reality gets avoided differently, how both archetypes bypass containment, and what integration actually looks like. Because tier 3 teaches us something essential. You can feel everything and still not be holding the world. Like the top 4 archetypes. So this is a huge milestone in my own personal work. I am literally like 7 subscribers away from gaining low tier monetization on my channel. So that means I can create a membership. I can sell my products on YouTube. And there's like some other perk I can't even remember. But yeah, please like and subscribe. I totally forgot to say that in the beginning. I don't know why I wait 2.5 hours later and mention it at the end of the video. But anyways, please like and subscribe. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. It was certainly a long one. I'm glad to have gotten it done. I've literally filmed this 2 different times, and I'm so ecstatic to be moving on to the next phase here. So, anyways, I am excited about this series, to be honest, because this is like groundbreaking work. And if you know anyone else doing this work, let me know. Please email me. I will give you a free ebook of your choice. And anyway, feel free to leave your thoughts and feelings in the comment section below. I do heavily, what do you call it? I read them all, and I will track what is going on in the comment section because this is my YouTube channel. So keep it mature. Anyway, take care, y'all, and I will see you in the next video.